Hello and welcome to our second week for our Raspberry Pi class. Now, what we're going to do this week is discuss how to do some basic digital art in the Raspberry Pi. You'll notice I'm recording on a Mac, okay? And you might be like, why are we doing this? Or it's just Raspberry Pi. So I'm using a piece of software called Camtasia, to record the desktop, so I can show you what I'm doing, rather than holding the camera behind me like we were doing last week. So what I'm doing is, you're not going to be doing this for yours, but just so you understand, I'm using a remote desktop program to access the Pi that I have. So you'll notice it just went from the Pi, or rather from the Mac to the Pi. This is my Raspberry Pi, just like yours. And you'll also notice that there's a little bit of a lag on mine that shouldn't take place on yours. You know, like if I drag this, you'll see it's a little slower, it's a little choppier. That's because I'm accessing the Pi that's wirelessly through my wireless network that's across the room using remote desktop. So if you see the choppiness and so forth, don't worry about that. That's just because I'm running the remote desktop in order to make this video. Okay, so what we need to talk about first in order to do our digital art project using the Pi is we first have to install ImageMagick, which is an art program. It's a basic art program that you can use in Raspberry Pi. So to do that, I'm going to, actually let me close this. So here we have our desktop, all right, and in the upper left-hand corner here, you'll see a picture that it looks like a little TV or a terminal, if you know what that is. And if you run your mouse over it, you'll see it says terminal. So I want you to click on that first. When you do that, you're going to get a terminal that looks like this. Now this may or may not be weird to you. Probably if you're just starting out, it's weird to you, but that's okay. So, you know, to learn new things, we have to kind of feel awkward and confused at first, because if we weren't confused, then we'd already know it and we wouldn't have to learn it. So let's walk you through the steps. So here, what I want to do is first I want to type in sudo, and then I'm going to type in apt-get install ImageMagick. Okay, so sudo, S-U-D-O, apt-get install ImageMagick. So what we have here is I'm telling the Pi that I want administrator rights, I want full control of the computer. Then I'm using a program called apt-get, and what that program does is it basically just coordinates all this free software that you can get with the Raspberry Pi, because you're using a Linux distribution. And then what it says to apt-get is to install. Install what? In this case, install the program we want, which is ImageMagick. Okay? So then, having typed that, I'm going to hit enter. And you get all this feedback. It says reading package list. You don't have to necessarily read all this, but what you do have to pay attention to is it's going to come to a question. It says, do you want to continue? I'm going to hit Y for yes and hit enter. Then it's contacting these servers on the internet, computers on the internet, to download the software. And this shouldn't take too long. It's not a huge program. Part of it obviously will depend on your internet connection. As always, if you have any problems, please let me know. And it's still going. Again, you don't have to read all this. I'm going to let that run. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so now it's finished. So what I'm going to do is I can go ahead and close the terminal. I'm going to go up to my Raspberry Pi menu and go to Graphics. And you'll see there ImageMagick. And it will say Display and Edit Image Files. Left click. And here we have the program. And if I click on that, it gives me a whole bunch of options, which I'll start walking you through in the next video.